Daytona Beach, 1968. NASCAR inspectors have spent hours crawling over a black and gold Chevelle, hunting for violations. They find 9. They remove the fuel tank entirely, leaving it on the garage floor as evidence. The car's owner, a grizzled mechanic in a battered cowboy hat, glances at their list, then climbs behind the wheel. "Better make it 10, he says. He turns the key. The engine fires, and then, impossibly, he drives away. No fuel tank, no explanation. Just taillights disappearing down Beach Street, while officials stand frozen, holding an empty tank and watching the most audacious exit in racing history. Henry Yunick was not supposed to become a legend. He was the son of Ukrainian immigrants, raised on a Pennsylvania farm, forced to drop out of school at 16 when his father died. He built his first tractor from a junked car's wreckage. By 20, he was piloting a B-17 over Nazi-occupied Europe, flying more than 50 missions with the 97th Bombardment Group. The nickname came from a smoking motorcycle he'd built as a teenager. It stuck. After the war, Yunick moved to Daytona Beach because it was warm and he'd liked the look of it from the air. He opened a garage and gave it the only name that fit: the best damn garage in town. Within a decade, he was twice NASCAR Mechanic of the Year. His teams won 57 Cup Series races and 2 championships. His signature was unmistakable: white coveralls, battered cowboy hat, pipe clenched between his teeth. But Smokey's real genius wasn't building fast engines. It was reading rulebooks. NASCAR in the 1960s operated on thin regulations full of assumptions and gaps. Officials specified what you couldn't do. Smokey focused on what they forgot to mention. And in 1996, they forgot to mention fuel lines. The first innovation was pure physics. NASCAR officials measured fuel by volume. They would drain a tank, record how many gallons it held, and verify compliance with capacity limits. Simple enough. But volume is not a fixed property. It changes with temperature. Gasoline contracts when cold. Cool it enough, and the same measured gallon contains more actual fuel molecules than a warm gallon. Yunick understood this before anyone thought to write a rule about it. He chilled his fuel to near freezing temperatures before filling the tank. Inspectors measured the volume. Legal. But as the race progressed and Florida heat soaked into the car, that fuel expanded. Molecules that had been compressed by cold now spread out, effectively giving his drivers more combustible material than their competitors. The advantage translated directly into fewer pit stops. Races are won in seconds. Pit stops cost dozens of them. NASCAR eventually mandated minimum fuel temperatures. Another page in the rulebook. Another gap closed. But Yunick was already working on something better. The basketball trick became legend, though its reality remains debated. The principle was elegant. NASCAR specified maximum tank capacity, say 22 gallons. Yunick allegedly fabricated a larger tank, perhaps 26 gallons, and placed an inflatable basketball inside. During inspection, the ball was inflated, displacing space within the tank. Officials poured in their measurement liquid. 22 gallons. Legal. Before the race, the ball was deflated. Now the tank held 4 extra gallons of actual fuel. Some historians question whether gasoline would dissolve rubber over time. Others point out that Yunick never confirmed the story himself. But the principle mattered more than the specific implementation. Inspectors verified what they measured. They never questioned whether the measurement itself could be manipulated. Yunick understood systems at a level most people never consider. He didn't beat the test. He beat the testing methodology. These tricks helped, but his masterpiece required something even simple. NASCAR regulated fuel tank size. The rulebook was explicit. But fuel lines? Nobody thought about fuel lines. They were functional components, nothing more. A few feet of small diameter tubing running from tank to engine. What advantage could possibly exist there? Yunick saw the gap. He installed 11 feet of 2-inch diameter tubing, coiled neatly beneath the car where inspectors never thought to look. This was not a fuel line. This was a hidden reservoir. At 2 inches diameter, 11 feet of tubing holds approximately 2 gallons. Combined with additional routing, estimates suggest he gained up to 5 gallons of extra capacity. The tank itself remained perfectly legal. Officials could drain it, measure it, scrutinize every weld. They would find nothing wrong, because nothing was wrong with the tank. The fuel sitting in the line was never measured, never checked, never even considered. This is what made the 1968 Daytona scene possible. When inspectors removed his fuel tank and handed him a list of 9 violations, the car still held enough fuel to run. The engine didn't need the tank. It needed fuel, and fuel was coiled beneath the floorboards, invisible and uncounted. His exit wasn't magic. It was engineering. NASCAR responded with regulations specifying fuel line diameter and maximum length. The rulebook grew thicker, but Yunick's pattern was already established, and fuel was only one domain. His 1966 Chevelle became equally infamous. The black and gold number 13 looked stock, but something was wrong. Competitors knew it. Officials suspected it. The car was simply too fast. They searched for illegal modifications and found the profile matched factory specifications. What they eventually discovered was subtler. Yunick had lowered the roof and windows, raised the floor, shifted the entire body backward by nearly 3 inches. The result was improved aerodynamics and weight distribution without technically altering the car's dimensions. NASCAR created body templates for inspection, mandatory overlays that would catch such modifications. Another rule born from Yunick's imagination. He offset chassis positions for better oval handling. He allegedly filled roll bars with wet sand to meet inspection weight, then drained them overnight. He kept stock fender wells installed during qualifying for aerodynamic advantage, then cut them out afterward. The rules said he could remove them. They never said when. His defense was always the same. All those other guys were cheating 10 times worse than us, he wrote in his autobiography. It was just self-defense. The 1968 Daytona story became folklore. Yunick himself later admitted the details had grown with each telling. Perhaps the tank was already removed for other reasons. Perhaps the violations numbered differently, depending on who remembered. But the principle underneath the legend was real. A man understood the system better than the people who built it. His relationship with NASCAR's founding family, the Francis, never recovered. Yunick left the sport in 1970 after years of friction. He died of leukemia in 2001, still absent from the NASCAR Hall of Fame. The feud outlasted him, but his fingerprints remain everywhere. Body templates became mandatory inspection tools, used until 2018. Fuel temperature regulations still govern every race. Line diameter specifications exist because one man in a cowboy hat proved they were necessary. Roughly half of NASCAR's 1970s rulebook was written in direct response to innovations from a single garage in Daytona Beach. Disney and Pixar named a character after him in Cars 3. His autobiography sold out before publication. The final irony cuts deepest. Yunick also designed safety barriers and air jacks for pit stops. NASCAR rejected both at the time. He could have made racing faster and safer. The sport only listened to half. What made Smokey Yunick dangerous wasn't that he cheated, it's that he never had to. He simply read what everyone else skipped. The negative space between the rules, the assumptions no one thought to question. The fuel wasn't in the tank, it was in the line. The aerodynamics weren't illegal. They just hadn't been forbidden yet. Every regulation NASCAR writes today carries his fingerprints, rules born from the gaps he walked through decades ago. If you want to understand how systems really work, study the man who made inspectors give up and go home. Subscribe for more.